Never thought that Saddam would be removed, never. So when I saw them, I felt hope. A country like America, this was my dream.
Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein sends his army into neighboring Kuwait.
President Bush's deadline for Saddam Hussein to leave Iraq, that U.S. warships and planes, there were F-117 stealth bombers involved, launched the opening salvo of Operation Iraqi Freedom. The attack came in waves, cruise missiles, followed by the F-117 stealth bombers with so-called...
War has plagued many generations, and for all, it's been normalized. In my lifetime alone, I have experienced the war in Afghanistan, American intervention in Yemen and northwest Pakistan, Iraq War, and many others that the United States aren't even a part of. The most recent of which is the war in Ukraine. Now I bring this all up because it's almost relevant to the game Freedom Fighters. Over the past week I've experienced, for the first time, IO Interactive's Rebellion Fighter War about Russia invading the United States. Now, is the Ukraine war at all like Freedom Fighters? No. War isn't humorous or involve funny Russian accents. It involves loss. But the game gives a sense of hope just as many other freedom fighters are doing over in Ukraine. They are inspired by avenging their homeland with the hope that one day they'll be free from the grips of Russia. The game is no brutal look at war, but it's an inspiring tale of camaraderie and fighting for a just cause. This is Freedom Fighters. EA Games in 2002 announced Freedom, the Battle for Liberty Island, which would later be renamed Freedom Fighters, at the Electronic Entertainment Expo. The original concept of the game would be centered around strategy turn-based combat. The game was developed by IO Interactive, who are famous for the Hitman franchise and Kane & Lynch. The engine they used was the 3D engine Glacier, which was used on games such as Hitman Blood Money, Kane & Lynch 2 Dog Days, and Mini Ninjas. The original soundtrack for Freedom Fighters was composed by Jesper Kyd. The soundtrack was GameSpot's Best Game Soundtrack of the Year 2003. Kyd researched Russian music and musical scales prior to composing. He cited for Soviet history and the Cold War as major influences. Kyd was quoted stating, "Not many people know this, but I wrote the Freedom Fighters score in Manhattan right after 9/11. It was quite a strange time writing music for a story about a foreign power invading Manhattan. I spent a lot of time just playing the game to get a real, in-depth sense of the experience that I needed to dramatize." I love this quote because it relates back to my beginning statements, that no matter what position you may be in life, a war can affect you, and sometimes want to make a change, or be inspired to create something that can be powerful. Now, before I head on to the gameplay section, I would love to show you some of my favorite tracks.
drinks I'd been paying for all night. Well, who cares?
Freedom fighters, like any good invasion story, Russians taking over New York. You get introduced to the main character, Chris Stone, and his brother Troy. Your brother gets captured and you get help by Mr. Jones. From there, you start a revolution with the help of members like Isabella and Phil. Now, this helps invest the player into one cause, to destroy the Reds. Now, the game's dialogue is decent. While at times cheesy, like the bad Russian accents, the script was well written, from the news anchor's speeches.
Citizens of New York and comrades from the Soviet Armed Forces, welcome to our first news broadcast after today's events. My name is Tatiana Kempinski, and I will be your regular news anchor from now on. We hope in time to obtain the cooperation of most of your familiar TV personalities once they return from a re-education program at our training facilities in Alaska.
To the rise up and fight speech.
I stand before you and the world today to reaffirm the pledge our forefathers made to each other and for each of us. To protect our lives, our fortunes, and our self-worth. So I ask you now to take up arms against the evil invaders and yell in their faces that they will never take our freedom!
Another aspect I love is the atmosphere. Something about the art style feels cartoonish in a way, but more impactful. Because you notice all the detail and work that was put into the models, bullet impacts, and just how enemies react to being shot. The enemies you will go up against start from the basic foot soldiers, juggernauts with machine guns, to helicopters that are a pain in the rear. To attack the foes, you have guns like pistols, AK-47s, shotguns, and sniper rifles. Now, while there's a variety in guns and enemies, there are sure some variety in the bullet spread of guns. Bullets feel sporadic and just all over the place. Now, you can chalk it up to Chris being a plumber and not so fantastic with weaponry, but I would think by the end of the game, the bullet spread would be more consistent. Not even crouching or aiming down your sight really helps, and it's just annoying to deal with. It basically becomes a run and gun tactic, or just do tons of pot shots hoping you might hit the target. I love the mission setup, where you can go do side objectives to make the harder sectors more manageable, or just skip them altogether and go headfirst into major trouble. I love the freedom option, and in a way your choices matter in the gameplay aspect, at least. Throughout the missions you can find other resistant fighters. Some may be fighting, or others just hanging out, and depending on your reputation, you can recruit tons of members to help you fight. Now, how do you get reputation? Well, by basically playing the game, from blowing up some power lines, or to just give a medic pack to an injured civilian. I think it's impressive how many soldiers you can have and how many follow you and fight well. I mean, you can really clear out a sector with just tons of dudes just firing. And there's just points where you just feel awesome, just as you are running through the streets and you have tons of dudes following you, ready for anything. IO Interactive made well-designed AI, especially for the enemies. There have been times where I just get surrounded, or I think I got the upper hand, and boom, machine gun pops out of nowhere. It really made you think, how can I ambush this person? Or where's the best route to take? It makes you think, because sometimes you may be able to go up high and get a sniper rifle, or there'll be times where you don't even think about it and you start running the street and then you get pinned down by a sniper. Beautiful design. I love it. The game is just a fun and entertaining challenge, and it's a story that I feel people should experience. All cheesy with twists and turns that anybody can kind of see a mile away. It's just entertaining. It's Red Dawn, but in a video game. So, what do I think of Freedom Fighters? It's a seriously entertaining game that pushes people to their limit. Okay, not really. I mean, it's not like a Dark Souls game. You're not going to get freaking slapped around. It shows in a kind of cheesy way of how to fight back against some Russians. It's just basically Red Dawn, like I've stated. So, it's an entertaining schlock fest. It's cheesy, it's fun, it's not maybe the greatest shooting mechanics, but if you want games that kind of feel like the old Hitman games in the same game engine, play Freedom Fighters. So get this game on console or PC and fight back against tyranny.